Daylight comes to meet you on the road like a prodigal son, a prodigal hope that you gave up.
Hey guys, I'm Tyler Bass. I'm going to share a small story with you of my life. In 2008, me and some friends were heading to Disney World, just on a vacation. The summer was starting. It was in May. We drove through the night, laughing, joking, and watching movies. And the driver switched the next morning. The driver fell asleep and passed out at the wheel. So as we were going down the interstate, we went off the road around 86 miles an hour. She overcorrected, and we began to roll. Out of 7 of us in the vehicle, only one of my friends had their seatbelt on. She was able to walk away when the vehicle actually landed and completely stopped. The rest of us were all ejected. When the first responders got there was 4 that were dead on sight. My roommate, a best friend, and another great friend, and me. I was dead on sight. I landed off to the right side of the interstate, face down in a mud puddle. The witnesses on scene saw me fly off the road, so they told the first responders that I was in the woods. So they came and dragged me out of the woods, and they did CPR once, and I didn't take a breath. They did it twice, and I still didn't start breathing. So the first responders looked at each other, and they said, let's try it one more time. They tried the third time, and that's actually when I took my second breath at life. After they brought me back to life, they air evacuated me to the ICU, intensive care unit in the hospital. I hit my head really bad, and it caused me where I now have brain damage. In ICU, my family was there with me, praying over me in my room day and night. And when it came to the 13th day, they realized my face started turning like a different color. And they took a tissue and did a diagnosis on it. And that's when the diagnosis came back. They realized I had mucormycosis. It's a deadly disease. It starts killing the cells and skin in your body. So they assumed I would die within a very few hours. So they took me into surgery. And as surgery went through, they took a break and came out and told my mom and dad, we've removed half of your son's nose, bone from his cheek, some of his eyelid, and part of his upper jawbone. And mom and dad said, do you think you got all the mucormycosis out of him? And they said, no, we're not sure if we have. So my dad said, what are you guys gonna have to do in surgery if you continue to do surgery to actually remove all the mucormycosis? They said probably take both of his eyes and all of his nose. And dad said, what's his chance of his percentage to live if he continues to live after the surgery? They said he has less than a 0% chance to actually live after this surgery. This mucormycosis is a deadly disease. And they said to Dad, do you want us to keep going and continue the surgery? And my dad said, no. If my son's gonna die, let him die with dignity. So they took me back to my intensive care unit, my room in ICU, and they brought me out of a coma just so my family could say goodbye to me. They were that serious about me dying, they actually brought me out of a coma so my parents could say goodbye to me. The days went by in ICU were after surgery. 38 days later in ICU, I was still alive. They didn't assume it would take that long for this disease to kill me. So they realized that I was still alive and they needed a room in ICU. So they took me to a step-down room in the hospital, and I still didn't die. So then they realized, this guy isn't dying. So they sent me across the street to a physical rehab where they could teach me how to walk and talk again. The brain damage had really taken a big effect on me. So they told my mom and dad, we're just going to send your son home and let him die where he grew up. They were still imposing the fact that I was going to die so hard that they actually sent me home where I could die where I grew up. And when I got home, I felt like I could get back to my normal life. But it didn't really click, the fact that I had surgeries to go into to reconstruct my facial features. And now that I'm looking back to where I was in life, after I graduated with my associate degree from college, I wasn't walking beside God. I was just living my typical college life, hanging out with friends. And now looking back, I wish I'd been somewhere different, because God has given me His mercy and grace, and He allowed me to live after the wreck. And it wasn't the life I should have lived. I was baptized when I was 10 years old. And I'm 20 years old, and I'm partying in college. And then things started clicking together that I wasn't walking beside God. And that's when the devil definitely came into my life and he wiped me right off my feet when the car wreck happened. The world always says there's a wide path of life that everybody takes, acting the same, doing the same things. But when it comes to taking the narrow path, as it says in the Word, that's where you need to go and listen to God. He's got a path, and He'll direct you completely straight to it. Just listen to Him. I know I wish I would have. I'm seeking Him completely, 10 times more than I was before the wreck. I thought I was walking with God then, getting out of the party and getting closer, going to Bible studies and going to church. But that's not all the participation you do at church. That doesn't actually make you a good Christian. You got to live and walk the walk when it comes to living and believing in God.